Welcome to 2024. This is our first Market Watch. It is jam-packed with a lot of great data that we've compiled for you. Plus, we've got access to a lot of inventory that's not even on the market. Welcome to our first market update of 2024. We're going to basically break down everything that happened in 2023 and kind of forecast what 24 is going to look like in the real estate industry. So Jason, crazy trends that we're seeing here. We looked at all the numbers basically for 2023, and let's just take March for example, which we looked at the numbers in March, and that was kind of the biggest drop from the previous year. So we look at March numbers, they were down significantly from March of 2022 when we compare year over year, right?
Yeah, March of 2022 was essentially the peak of the market nationwide, because that's when we saw interest rates for the first time. If we all remember, they jumped from below 3% to over 6% in something like 30 to 60 days. So it was a really short jump up.
Yep.
And that, we knew that would have some impact on the market. And so we had seen such big appreciation year over year that drove a very big drop from March of 22 to March of 23.
Yeah, so
it was a 21% drop in the median sales price.
That's significant, huge. That was the biggest pause button. That's when rates started to really shoot up, and consumers were like, "What's happening with this market?" Everybody was either, "Oh, it's going to crash," or just kind of pause.
A lot of talk about bubbles.
Yeah, exactly. Right? All that stuff.
And we certainly, if that had continued, that would have felt like a bubble popping, right? But luckily, it didn't continue.
No, because then we look at the numbers as we started to wrap up the year. Let's just take November, for example. We look at November 23, those numbers were actually up from November of 22. So we saw the opposite trend happen as we saw prices dip in the beginning of 23. Prices started to climb the previous months, because then December was actually higher than November. And so that's telling us is we're starting to see prices rebound. And they really never, we're talking about less than 10% total change?
Yeah.
So it wasn't huge.
Yeah, the median sales price, when you consider all sales for the entire year of 2022 versus 2023, it was only about a 6.5% drop, right? And so a lot of that had to do with the interest rates. Like that obviously was going to take some buyers out of the market. It also had to do with insurance. We've talked a lot about here. We've talked about insurance rates rising and just costs of living in general, and there was uncertainty in the market. Right, a lot of people saying, well, even if I can't afford it, I don't know if I will buy, or sellers saying, I don't know if now's the time to sell, which that created inventory issues that we'll talk about in a moment.
Yeah, definitely. So good summary there. And you brought up inventory. So, this is Santa Cruz County. We're a small market. Everybody knows this. We don't have the number of sales you're going to see in Silicon Valley. But it's a very desirable place to be. There's a lot of, I think, pent up demand. People that want to either move in here or they want to make some changes with their home. They like where they're at, but it's maybe too small. They want to upgrade, but they're, have this low rate. But we're starting to see it can only hold for so long. And, what we're seeing here with inventory, it's really interesting. Basically, we've got this, whole members only portal, which is shared amongst the agents that are members that you don't see on the open market. You don't see it on the big websites, the Zillows, the Redfins, or whatever you want to call it. And it's a big number. We're talking just in January alone, I think 30% of the listings that have come on the market so far this year are not even on. They're just shared amongst agents to share with our clients, and this is where it's a huge, I think, big deal.
And the reason we do that, right, is that sometimes they're still prepping the listing for sale, so they haven't done all the professional photos yet. We know that your first impression is the best impression, right? So they want that first impression to be big, but at the same time, it can be a benefit to both the seller and the buyer sometimes to advertise it a little bit sooner. And so when we see these come on our side of the MLS to say this is a members only, but sometimes they're still open to showing the property. Sometimes they're still open to taking offers. It completely depends person to person, and we can actually help buyers when we know what it is that they're looking for. We can help them see some of those properties, or at least know what's coming up, to then get a head start.
Definitely, and I think one step further, this is telling us about what the market's shaping up for this spring. Right. Yeah. We call it a spring market. Everybody says spring doesn't start till March, right? But here we are looking at February coming up soon, and we're going to see inventory levels really start to climb up. The prime properties that will be coming up for sale, they're going to be the ones that buyers are looking for. And this is telling us that, hey, sellers are getting their homes ready. I mean, we have all these listings ourselves coming up soon, and so do other agents. And so there's really shaping up, I think, for a rockin' spring market. Rates have, come down from the peak significantly, and that's helped affordability. I mean, let's not, it's still expensive. It's bottom line. But you want to be here, you can afford to be here, it's the place to be. So.
Well, and talking about rates for a minute, right, is that we saw them peak over 8% for the first time in decades.
Right.
As we finally saw rates go over 8%. And then the Fed came out and said, actually, we feel like the rates are under control enough, or the inflation's under control enough, that we feel comfortable slowing down the continuous rate hikes. So they announced that they're going to be doing 3 rate hikes in 2024, 3 rate reductions in 2024, and that got a lot of buyers excited, and a lot of, kind of feeling like this sense of, okay, maybe now I can finally afford a home. One kind of word of caution in there, though, is that created a big drop in rates. It was one of the biggest rate drops of all time in such a short period, where they went from over 8 to down to about 6.5.
Okay.
That's them reacting. That's the mortgage market reacting to that news. So just because they said they're going to do some more rate reductions in the future doesn't necessarily mean that the consumer is going to see that instantly.
True.
And so that's where we just want people to exercise caution. Don't assume that because they announced it will be coming down a little bit, that they may not actually see that in the rate that they get in the future. And so if they're thinking about buying in 2024, now might actually be a great time to do so.
Awesome. I mean, way to tie this all together between inventory, rates, and pricing. What we're seeing in the market, we are studying this information. We've got all the data, and we can break it down to you hyper locally to where exactly you want to be. So, if you're looking for a mountain home in San Lorenzo Valley, or you want to be on the beach in Capitola, or right here in Santa Cruz, this is, all the information's available. We have it all for you. And we do forecast that 24 is going to be, a good year. We're seeing, all the signs showing that there's demand out there. Sellers want to sell. So here's to some good inventory and much success in 24.